Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving right into a fascinating and honestly absolutely crucial set of mechanisms proposed for keeping data auditors strictly independent under the DPDPA. Look, if you're navigating the weeds of data protection, you already know the Digital Personal Data Protection Act sets an incredibly high bar. But here's the thing, a law is really only as strong as the people verifying it, right? So today, we're unpacking some vital source material that outlines exactly how we make sure those verifiers stay completely objective.
It really brings up that classic question, who exactly audits the auditors? It's the ultimate question we have to ask ourselves when we're talking about corporate data governance, ethical conduct, and just the basic reliability of compliance checks. Think about it. When we trust a third party to tell us if a massive company is handling our personal data correctly, we have to be absolutely certain that this third party isn't being quietly influenced behind closed doors. We need to know, without a shadow of a doubt, that their audit is completely bulletproof.
Section 1. The threat to independence.
Okay, so we've got a fundamental conflict of interest staring us right in the face here. Management makes the payments, which means the auditor naturally feels this really powerful financial obligation to them. It's just basic human psychology and economics colliding, right? If the very management team being audited is the exact same group signing the auditor's paychecks, well, how can they be truly independent? They might subconsciously or even consciously worry about upsetting the people paying their invoices. It's a fundamental structural flaw, and it literally has to be corrected if we want to achieve genuine DPDPA compliance.
Moving on to Section 2, Power to the Shareholders.
So how do we fix this? Well, to maintain absolute independence, the source explicitly dictates that the shareholders must be the ones to approve the appointment of the independent data auditor. And think about why that matters for a second. By placing the approval power directly into the hands of the shareholders, we completely rip that direct hiring power away from day-to-day management. It severs that invisible string between the auditor and the executive team. Suddenly, the auditor answers to the owners of the company, not the managers running it.
I actually really love this quote because it doesn't hide behind any dense legal jargon. It just plainly states the exact logic. Shift the power so that the auditor does not feel obligated to the management which makes the payments. It's a very practical, structural fix to a deeply psychological problem. Empowering the shareholders is what directly protects the auditor's objectivity.
Which brings us to Section 3, the 3-year term limit.
So the crucial point here boils down to one specific number, 3. According to the proposed best practice criteria, no data auditor should ever continue to audit the exact same company for more than 3 consecutive years. And you might be wondering, why 3? Well, because even with shareholder approval, if an auditor hangs around the same company year after year, decade after decade, relationships just get too cozy. Objectivity naturally starts to erode. A hard stop at 3 consecutive years forces a totally fresh set of eyes onto the company's data practices on a regular basis.
Now, if you're thinking this 3-year rule sounds vaguely familiar, you're spot on. It isn't some radical, untested new idea, not at all. It's actually a proven method adopted directly from the norms of statutory financial auditors. We have known for a very long time that financial auditors need strict term limits to prevent complacency and corruption. So, what we are seeing here is the data privacy world taking a page straight out of the financial world's playbook. It legitimizes data auditing, proving that a company's data compliance is finally being treated with the exact same gravity as its financial compliance.
Let's get into Section 4, Enforcement and Accreditation.
Okay, so what happens when someone breaks the rules? We aren't just jumping straight to the nuclear option. The enforcement process actually follows a really clear escalating stairway. It starts progressively with ethical self-guidance at Step 1, builds up into a formal regulatory mechanism at Step 2, and then ultimately culminates in severe professional consequences at Step 3. Let's quickly break down how each of these steps works.
Starting with Step 1. Initially, this 3-year limit is being introduced purely as a matter of ethical conduct and self-regulation. Right now, it's being suggested for the impaneled auditors of AIDI, that's the Association of Independent Data Auditors of India. The strategy here is pretty smart. They want to deliberately bake this norm into the professional DNA of the industry by including it directly in the Code of Conduct for AIDI impaneled auditors. It's really about building a culture of independence from the ground up, starting with a strong ethical commitment from the auditors themselves.
But, it doesn't just stop at a polite self-regulatory suggestion. Building on that ethical foundation, the FDPPI, the Foundation of Data Protection Professionals in India, adds some real formal structure. The source notes that the FDPPI, in its mechanism for regulating the certification partners who actually conduct these audits, will explicitly include this 3-year limit as a hard requirement. So it essentially transitions the limit from a best practice ethical suggestion right into a mandatory regulatory standard for their partners.
And here is where the rubber really meets the road. The ultimate consequence of ignoring these independence norms is massive. If an auditor chooses to violate this standard and stubbornly stay on past that 3-year mark, they face the very real threat of losing their accreditation status entirely. Poof, gone. And without that accreditation, you essentially cannot operate as a trusted, independent data auditor anymore. It's a massive career-defining consequence that absolutely ensures these rules will be taken incredibly seriously.
So as we wrap up this explainer today, we've seen how shareholder power and strict 3-year term limits are being layered together to protect independence, moving all the way from a basic code of conduct up to the threat of lost accreditation. But I really want to leave you with this final thought to chew on regarding the future of corporate data ethics. When the stakes for our personal data are this high, is starting with ethical self-regulation enough to guarantee true data privacy? Or will the hard threat of lost accreditation be the absolute only thing that truly enforces compliance? It's a question that's definitely going to define the next era of data protection. Keep thinking about it, keep questioning the systems, and we'll see you in the next explainer.